guys, it's Alice, and since February is over, it's time to talk about the books I read in the past few weeks. I've got 3 books to talk about, and the first one is The Memory Police by Yoko Ogawa. This is a dystopian novel, and it's translated from Japanese by Stephen Snyder, and it's set on this island where things keep disappearing and people keep forgetting about things. It's very difficult to explain, but things disappear in their physical form, but they also disappear from people's memories. And we meet this novelist who realizes that her editor doesn't forget anything. He remembers everything, and that makes him a target for the dreaded memory police, so she decides to help him. This was an odd book, and I picked it up because I thought the concept of it sounded amazing, but I don't know how well I felt that the idea was executed. The biggest themes in this book are oppression, loss, and the power of memory and remembering, and I thought that was really interesting. And I love how we get to see this island slowly change throughout this novel, and we get to see how different that experience is for those who remember and those who don't. And it sort of calls into question how you're supposed to fight against a society that is very oppressive when you don't remember the past, and I thought that was really interesting. That being said, this was just a lot more boring than I thought it was going to be, and it starts off quite slow and vague, and I was okay with that because I thought it was going to pick up, and then it just never does. It almost becomes more vague towards the end. And I think in some books, it totally works to keep things back and not reveal everything, and I think it's maybe just personal preference. But I wanted to know what was going on. I wanted to know what caused all of this craziness, and I got 0 answers, and it was just a little frustrating. The writing in here is okay. There are some really beautiful parts, but overall, it just felt kind of ordinary to me. And there are a lot of parts in here where we get to read the manuscript that the novelist in here is working on. And I didn't really like those bits. I get why they're there, but I didn't really think they were that interesting. I didn't really feel connected to any of the characters. They didn't really feel that well developed to me, and they just didn't feel real. And I don't know, this was just one of those books that I so wanted to like, and I kept telling myself when I was reading it, you are enjoying this, but then I wasn't. I kept putting this book down and not really wanting to pick it back up. I kept doing other stuff instead of reading because I just wasn't really enjoying it. But then I kept thinking, oh my god, the concept of it is so good, so I'm sure it'll get better, and then it just didn't. So I'm really sad about it, but this just was not my thing, and I ended up giving it a 2 out of 5 stars. Secondly, I read The Pearl by John Steinbeck. This is a modern classic, and the story is about this poor diver who lives with his wife and his first child, and he finds this massive pearl, and the value of it makes him dream of brighter days, but it also stirs up greed and complicates him and his family's life. This was a pretty good novella, and I'm always impressed by authors who can put so much in so few pages, and I feel like this one does that fairly well. The writing in here is beautiful, and it's just descriptive enough to sort of bring life to people, place, and emotion. And I really, really like the setting of this, and I liked reading about the characters, even if some of them feel a little bit one-dimensional. I feel like a lot of the people in here were sort of just there to signify a certain thing, and because this is so short, that was all there was space for, which is fine. I really like how we get to see this town be turned upside down by someone finding something of such a value, and I really like the way that this explores greed and family. I will say though, I did find this quite predictable. I could tell pretty early on where the story was going to go. I did enjoy getting there, but I sort of felt like on the way to the end, I wasn't really surprised by anything, if that makes sense. I think what makes this a good story is that it has a lot of layers to it, and it's the kind of book that's really great to discuss, but It's not my favorite thing that I've read ever, not for any particular reason, it just didn't feel that impactful to me, so I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. Lastly, I finally finished the Virago Book of Witches, and this is edited by Shahrukh Hussain. I feel like I've mentioned this book so many times now, but it's a short story collection and it contains stories about witches from all over the world. This was a really great book to dip in and out of, and I really enjoyed getting to read stories about witches from all of these different places and cultures. I really liked getting to read about all of this witchcraft, and the place of witches in myth and folklore is really interesting to me. And one thing I really like about this is that we get to see witches on quite a broad spectrum, and we get to see magic and women in all kinds of different forms. And also, most of the stories in here were totally new to me, like I hadn't read most of them before, so that was really fun. As with most short story collections, there are always going to be stories that you love and some that you don't. And it's very much the same with this. There were some stories in here that I just could not get into, and then there were others that I loved. And I think it's worth reading through all of them to find the ones that you like. Overall, I thought this was pretty good, and I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. And if you like fairy tales and folklore and witches, this is the book for you. Now, the book that I'm currently reading is a nonfiction book, and it is This Is Going to Hurt by Adam Kay. And this is a memoir about a junior doctor working in the UK. And I have just started this, and I'm really excited to keep reading. Okay guys, those are all the books that I had to talk about today. And I would, of course, love to know, as always, what you all have been reading lately, and I will see you soon. Bye!